Thanks for braving it in the weather today. Helicon West is an uncensored public reading series. We regularly host published authors alongside community writers to promote and support all levels of skill, ability, and craft. If you would like to read during the open mic, you can sign up on the sheet near the coffee service. If you would like to donate to keep Helicon West going, we have bookmarks on the coffee table with a QR code link. We acknowledge that Helicon West operates on the territory of the Northwestern Band of the Shoshone Nation. Our events are made possible with the support from Sugar House Review, the Logan Library, the USU English Department, and community volunteers. We're a full.
Uh-oh.
Darn it. I'm sorry.
But you got the backup plan all set. Good job.
For a full acknowledgement statement, interviews with featured readers, merchandise, and more, visit heliconwest.wordpress.com. I'm the featured reader tonight with my writing group, Writers Cafe. I will be the first, followed by 3 other members of our group. Writers Cafe has been writing creatively for over 11 years. We started with a teacher through a community education class. Our teacher left for an internship and we kept going. We kept going for Teacher Without a Year. She came back and then got a great job in Alaska, and we just kept going. We kept going through COVID, and we're going to keep going. So we have a great time and a great group. Our group writes on our own with prompts and for any cause we choose to, or just for fun. And we encourage each other and offer positive feedback. My story this evening is about my life. I titled it, I've Watched Her Run. I've watched her run. I watch her run. She must run miles every day. I see her in my neighborhood and around Logan. I've watched her run for decades. She worked at Utah State when I did, and I'd see her all around campus, always looking fit and trim. She was quiet and beautiful in a subtle way. When I watched her run, I wanted to be just like her. I ran in high school, both on the track team and for fun. It was my go-to for de-stressing. Viewmont High School was west of our property, 1 fence jump away. The track that surrounded the football field was always available for me, so I could jump the fence and run a few laps, or run down the old Bangor Highway to the pool and swim off some anger issues. Running in junior high was my athletic start in a very random way. I had begged my parents for boys' running shoes for years because I had studied the way boys ran versus the way girls ran. And I knew that if I could increase my speed and improve my agility if I had proper running shoes. Gidget did the same thing. Some of you in the audience won't know who Gidget is. At that time, girls wore boat shoes. Girls didn't necessarily run or play sports or even exercise more than a few stretches and simple twists. Plus, boat shoes looked cute with your summer skirts. Boring. I wanted to run and run. I wanted to outrun others. I wanted to run so fast that I leaped into a new life, outside of my ordinary, simple farm girl life. Running was an escape, a physical high, a means to an end. And it meant I kept thin. It also meant I could cry and no one would notice because I was running. I could get all the anger and tears out and then go back home and feel like I'd worked through it. I ran the fastest when I was mad at my parents. Not for buying me girlish shoes, but for not understanding life as a teenager in boring, bountiful Utah. Then we went back to school shopping at Kmart, and I got the same shoes my brothers got. Not great running shoes, but a step above the girly boat shoes that were holding me back in life. That's the good news. The bad news was they were red, with red laces. How embarrassing for me. How awful my life is going to be heading into 9th grade with red running shoes. Already one of the less popular, my rank would shrink even lower. So when we ran the perimeter of the school field in girls' PE, I made sure I was way out front, running faster than everybody to avoid their smirks and cruel jokes. I even laughed some of them, but all I heard was, "Go, Red!" And it wasn't in jest. I kept running, and when it was time for track, the coach signed me up. The coach signed me up. I didn't try out. I didn't even know I'd made the team until Coach Dangerfield told me to stay after school and practice for track meet practices. I made the girls' basketball team in the same way. And of course, I was the only one on both teams with red shoes. But after I'd made the final cut, I was no longer worried about the red shoes. My anger and fear had fueled my body's ability to run, play, and be part of a team. In 10th grade, my friend Paula and I realized we could be on the track team in any event because they were so short on team members. Title IX was just out, and girls' sports were controversial in our town and at our school, not to mention our church's views. Track was great because you usually ran alone. It was not a close contact sport. You could run the 220 or 440 dash or the 880 relay. I wanted to try the pole vault, but I didn't have the gumption to even try it once. Besides, Denise, who was a year older than us, was already the state champ. Track was under the radar. We weren't popular, but we were girl athletes. In college, I thought of being a gym teacher or a PE coach, but by then there were a lot more girl athletes, and most of them were taller, stronger, and faster than me. I didn't feel like I fit in, and I changed my major. I took a weight training and body conditioning class and ran a bit to keep the freshman 5 off. And then work, other classes, and the college party life outweighed my desire to run, so I got my exercise dancing instead. Then I got married and hardly skied, ran, played basketball, volleyball, or softball again. After 2 kids in 4 years, I wanted to run myself back into shape, but I didn't have the time. The only running I found myself doing was running myself ragged, running against time, running out of money and energy. I ran circles around my alcoholic spouse. I ran from the truth. He was running up the bills, and I was running out of ideas to keep the household running. I was running low on energy, nutrients, hope, and faith. I couldn't seem to run for help no matter how much I needed it. I finally ran out of excuses and got divorced. I would still see this gal running and still think of how different our lives were. I'd gained and lost weight, yet she seemed to stay the same. Long, straight hair, lithe body, running and running. Did I still long to be her? I remarried, raised my girls, coached them in softball a few years, and was a bit more active with them. I walked so much delivering mail I didn't want to walk or hike on my days off. I still water skied, swam, and went snowshoeing. I had less to run away from at this point in my life. Things were smooth and decent for the most part. Now I'm alone, retired, and have the time but not the determination to run. Instead, I swim and play with the grandkids. I've had Achilles surgery and need knee surgery at some point. I've worn out my body too much for running on a track or pavement. I've run out of time. When I last watched her run, I wondered why I never saw her anywhere else. She was never at the coffee shops, the pizza place, the farmer's market, or in line for custard. I never saw her at the movies, at a Utah State or high school game, the Logan Aquatic Center, or Willow Park. She wasn't out dancing with us at the cache or a private event. She was never at any weddings or funerals or elementary school fundraisers. In 4 decades of the Chocolate Festival, I've never seen her there. I know next to nothing about this lady who runs, but I now know I do not want to be her, and I cannot be her because I am me. I dance, swim, laugh, sew, write, bake, and connect with all of my friends and family on so many levels each week. Why I've been so concerned with her life and her running has nothing to do with my fabulous life and my full days. I now know I ran myself ragged decades ago to gain an understanding and strength to be where I am and who I am today. Running was a great defense mechanism when I was a young, frustrated teen. My grandkids run track and cross country now. I get to support them, and I love to watch them run. Thank you. Our next speaker is Carol Foat, and she'll be followed by Lisa Duskin-Getty, and then Jan Uros. Thank you.
Well, it's nice to be here. So this story, some is fiction and some is nonfiction. You can figure it out yourself. Stealing someone else's past. It was a fresh spring morning when I saddled up my horse Scout to go for a ride. Usually my friend Barb and I rode together, but she had to work that day and I had the day off. I had recently moved Scout over to her house to board as we had sold our house and land and moved to town. She was happy to have another horse to keep her horse company, and we had more opportunity to ride together. It was the first ride I was taking after a long, cold Iowa winter. I took time to brush out the winter coat on Scout. Horses who are pastured during the winter rarely come through looking anything but homeless and overdressed in a shabby fur coat. As I brushed him, I leaned in with my nose to get a good sniff of that horsey smell. And only a horse lover can understand that. Once all that excess winter hair would be shed off in a few weeks, he'd be a dandy-looking buckskin. It was early April, a bit brisk, but refreshing. The sun was up and spilled its warmth down on me as I saddled up. Scout was ready to go, as those early spring rides were a chance for him to spill out that energy he stored up. Living through the winter with little exercise other than running around in the pasture did bring out a bit of friskiness and a ready-to-go attitude. With the saddle and bridle on, we were ready to ride. I wasn't familiar with the riding areas around this new area where Scout was now pastured. Fortunately for us, the farmers in the area were kind enough to let us ride in their pastures and fields, as long as we shut the gates. As we headed up the road, I decided to venture into a wooded area I had not been in before. The makeshift barbed wire gates, supported by a couple of vertical wood posts, served as the entrance to the pasture we would be riding in. I dismounted and pulled the gate to the side. Then I pulled Scout around and picked up the floppy barbed wire gate and slid a barbed ring over it. There were cows in the field, and they watched with curiosity as we rode by them. Scout held his head high and was just as curious about them. We rode through the high weeds and got to a clearing where it seemed safe to run. Scout's body had been tense all along, waiting for the chance to let go of that energy wanting to burst out of him. Then I let him have his way and he took off in a run. We both felt free. The air pushed against my face and tears from the wind streaked down my cheeks. We flew across the grounds as I felt every muscle in Scout's body engaged in the run. This was my heaven. After a while, I pulled him to a trot so we could both take in our surroundings. Soon we made our way into a wooded area. The chill in the air took over where the sun left off as we headed under the shade of the trees. The birds were singing, the fresh smell of spring hung in the air. It was a great day to be on a horse and get away from life's busyness. As we sauntered along, Scout was engaged in the ride as much as I was, with the sounds, the smells, the fresh air, Nature seemed to welcome us to be a part of the scene. The path we were on seemed to have been an old road at one time. I wasn't sure if it ever led to anywhere or even had any purpose until I saw it. Off in the distance stood an old rock house, or what was left of it. That must be why the road was there, I thought. As I came closer, I found it to be a stone structure or remains of an old house. It stood like a beaten down sentinel with nothing left to guard. The rotted wood frames held no glass, only the wood remained. There was no roof. Evidence of a second floor still remained by rotted wood frames like the ones below them. They no longer held glass either. There was no floor either, just the telltale signs of where a floor used to be supported by the rotting wood that survived at the wall where the floor braces once were. The remaining floorboards on the main level were rotted and collapsed into the crawl space underneath the house. But the strength of the house were the outside stone walls, were the outside stone walls. They survived the test of time. The path I rode on separated the house from a partial foundation that must have been a barn at one time. The only survivor there was the rock foundation partially hidden by tall weeds, a downed tree branch, and a bent-up metal trough that probably was used to hold water for some livestock. On the ground by the trough, there was a few rusty bent cans of roll-your-own tobacco. This was probably a chance for the farmer to enjoy a good smoke and time alone from people. As I circled around the back of the foundation, I saw a few yards away what looked to be a tombstone. 2 inscriptions were on the stone. Abby, 3, June 1910. Albert, 5, June 1910. What happened to these 2 children? Another chill ran across the back of my neck. I quickly turned to the barn foundation and tried to block out the thought of something horribly sad happening to these children. I sat in the saddle, studying the crumbling rock foundation. I wanted to place this scene in my own story as it captured my imagination. I painted a picture of the activity that went on in the barn. There was a hayloft for the kids to play. From the beams they would jump into the piled hay below. Or maybe they played hide and seek, burying themselves in the hay, hoping not to become it if found hiding in that place. Their giggles still haunted the place. Maybe they peered through the hay chute, lying on their bellies as they watched their dad milk the cows stanchion below. Was there a young calf off to the side in a box stall, mooing to get back to his mother? Did they moo to the calf, trying to confuse it as to where the sound was coming from? Then there had to be more giggles. A few skittish barn cats wandered around by the cows, hoping for a squirt of fresh milk. Would this farmer be so inclined? It was my idea that the barn wasn't kept as clean, especially with a dirt floor that would be hard to clean. I did notice carved in the clay floor was a trench or cow toilet. Weeds grew from it now, and it was barely visible, but I could almost smell the fresh manure that would be plopped into the trench near the cow's back feet. Fresh manure did have a real down-to-the-earth smell, and probably dried manure would have been caked on the earthen floor. From past memories of spending time on a friend's farm, I could smell the dryness of the manure and how it would catch in my nose and make me sneeze. And then I did sneeze. Wanting to examine the house a bit closer, I got off Scout and tied him to a branch, and then with my arms out in front of me, I tried to make my way through the underbrush and tree branches. The old door, as I stood in the old doorway, a chill came over me as I was intruding into somebody's home. My whole body gave a shake. I walked around the side of the house and saw where long ropes dangled from a tree. A flat wood seat lay half tied to one of the ropes and swayed a bit back and forth as a slight breeze came up. Another play place for the kids. I could almost hear the giggles. Another chill came over me. Since the house had 2 stories, I had already guessed it was a home for a family, probably two bedrooms up. One side for the parents, the other side a bedroom for probably 5 or 6 kids. Of course, no bathroom. The house was too old for that. I couldn't help but wonder if this was a happy family. Did the husband and wife have a good marriage? Or due to the period in time, did the husband rule the household? And did she have to toil every day doing the woman's work he expected? Was she okay with that? Or did she feel she was missing out in life? Life was different back then. The breeze continued as if in harmony with the picturesque story my imagination unfolded in my mind. As the breeze became more intense, the overgrown trees reached out, touching the stone walls of the structure as if in a warning. Scout was getting a bit nervous and started to move about anxiously, wanting to move away from where I had tied him. I walked over to him and took the reins off the tree branch. I stroked his coat and gently tried to quiet him. Although having the horse sense that he had, I'm sure he could tell by my demeanor, I was getting a bit unsettled as well. I mounted into the saddle and took a moment just looking. I couldn't help feel I had intruded on a family's past. Especially now, I was making up their story as if it fit in my mind and my imagination. And then the breeze stilled itself. There were no birds chirping, no sound or any movement. The quiet became deafening, and a touch on my shoulder and a smell of tobacco breathed on my neck. I turned with a start. No one was there. My whole body quivered as I kicked Scout into the sides and made a quick exit back on the path. It was time I got the heck out of there. Whatever was going on around there wasn't meant for me.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
The water bug. The Sunday afternoon crowd at Crystal Hot Springs presses in on me as I find a spot in the hot pool. I take in the playful chats, the laughter, and the splashing going on all around me. People are enjoying life. The hot water and the contentment of the afternoon are a soothing therapy. My daughter and grandson take off. I relax, lay back, and float on the surface. The water at a hot springs is not always clear and clean looking. Leaves and twigs find their way into the pool. Algae that has accumulated on the pool floor and walls is set loose to float and coat your skin. An occasional moth or butterfly loses their way and lands in the pool, some still fluttering, striving to take wing. A honeybee floats by, and I scoop it up, tossing it up into the air near the edge of the pool. This makes me feel good, like I'm performing a service. Next, a little bug attaches itself to my arm. I'm determined to rescue this creature, thinking it might drown unless I move it out of the pool. I lift it off my arm, carry it to the side of the pool, and release it onto the cement deck. It begins to move around clumsily. I watch and await its escape. Maybe it will take wing and fly away or crawl to a dry spot. But no, the little bug goes right to a puddle and starts to move through it. Curious, I keep my eyes on it, wondering where it will end up. Soon enough, I have my answer. Moving towards a deep crevice in the pool coping, cut there as a drain, the little guy readily dumps itself in. No, I say out loud, why did you do that? I look around to make sure no one heard that. For at least the next 20 minutes, I stare at the crevice as the bug tries to climb out. Over and over, it makes it halfway up the crevice wall, then at the very top falls back down. I feel like I'm watching one of those wildlife documentaries where the narrator keeps us on the edge of our seats, describing some life-threatening drama taking place right out in nature. and we can't do a thing about it. Will the bug use its native intelligence and devise a way to climb out? The bug stops now and then. It must be tiring, I think. This could be its demise. The sun begins to beat down on my shoulders and face, and I worry I might get a sunburn on this unusually warm and sunny day in winter. But I can't take my eyes off the drama. Finally, I decide I must take action. I climb out of the pool and find 2 sticks that can be placed at either end of the crevice to create a ramp. Surely then the little bug can use the ramp to get out, but to no avail. It doesn't seem to register with the bug to climb onto the ramp. Instead, it falls under the piece of wood. I wait until I see movement again. I'm puzzled why this isn't working. Soon, I decide to leave my point of vigil and search for leaves floating in the pool. Maybe I can fill in the space of the crevice, thereby raising the surface higher, and the bug will be able to crawl out onto the safety of the deck. As I swim away, it occurs to me that maybe this is a water bug, and it needs to swim out. Abandoning the idea of gathering wet leaves, I turn around to go back just as 2 teen girls plop their fleshy thighs down on the edge of the pool on either side of the crevice. Thank God, I say, maybe I can still help the bug. I move right back to the spot and say, excuse me, I was working on something here. They only speak Spanish, but pick up my gestures and move over to allow me room to peer into the crevice. I point and say, bug. I begin to scoop water into the crevice. They must understand as they join me and help me scoop more water in. But no matter how much water we scoop into the crevice, it quickly drains, and I can no longer see any movement of the bug anywhere. I feel bad I have failed to save the bug. I thank the girls and swim away. They must think I'm crazy. My grandson finds me and says, Grandma, what have you been doing all this time? Back home, I write stream of consciousness about the bug. I have no idea why I was so invested in saving it. I describe my emotions and my determination to save it. I search the internet for information about aquatic insects and find a picture of the exact creature. It falls under the category of backswimmers. They live in ponds and swimming pools. I find out they can fly. They can bite a human. Their scientific name is Notonectidae. They carry a small bubble on their abdomen, which allows them to stay submerged for as many as 6 hours. Out of water, they are clumsy and cannot effectively move on a hard surface. Their 2 front claws allow only a minimal amount of strength. Their hind legs are not legs at all, but function as oars. I finally realized this insect is not equipped to crawl, grasp, and climb. In the end, I realized the bug should never have been removed from its native habitat.
Hello. This is the anniversary of my mother's death, so I wrote this poem for her. It's called For Mom. Angry, bitter, sickly. That's how I remember you, Mom, when you died 28 years ago today. I would like to remember the earlier Mom I knew. Fun, lively, elegant, smart, witty. But life dealt you some bad blows that you did not know how to handle. I watched the light go out in your eyes that not even being with your precious grandkids could restore. I felt the pain in your manner, how you enclosed yourself within your boundaries, real and unreal. But today, to honor your existence and to remember the value you encompassed in me, I will remember how I wanted to grow up to be like you. Your charm, your poised manner, your fun-loving spirit, how we used to laugh at dirty jokes you didn't dare share with anyone else. How we were so similar, although you liked your other daughter better, probably because she didn't remind you of yourself as I did. How I marveled at your knowledge and how you kept up to date with world events. how you made all my favorite foods for me without question, always. How you loved to travel and made the most of those opportunities. But sadly, I saw your life unravel when at age 49, my father left you after having a series of affairs. You never adjusted to that upheaval. Not even moving across the country to be near your favorite grandchildren and daughters. Not even when you became financially self-sufficient. Not even when you had the world at your fingertips. You chose to not be engaged. Perhaps that is the best lesson you taught me, to not be like you in the end.
Thank you. Before we start with our open mic tonight, our group published some haiku poetry, and we bought some books here. If you'd like to take them, they're just free. So they're over here on the table after the speakers. If anyone wants to sign up, I'll keep this back by the coffee. We have some people signed up already. Our first open mic is Ronald Jensen, then Aaron Watson, and then Star Colebrook.
All right.
Hi. Then we'll go Katie. There's like one clean Jensen. This was for me. Going on a yard, didn't go gay. But my own Katie, the same last name, still have me here. So it's not the same. I hope to make it worthwhile for the rest of my life. Make it happy, be my wife. So I've got that right. I'll still be here. I want to be the best I can for my kids. Friday to women. It says Friday, I don't know why, since I haven't been given a piece of pie. They tell me that I don't understand. That I will, and I'm in hand. For right now, before I start to cry, please payday, pie. Friday, give me some pie.
Hello, I'm Erin. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I just have two poems to read today. The first one is called True Love. He leaned in the doorway. He knew at first sight the only thing that would ever be between them was time. She looked up at him, eyes wide alert, wondering why that man is blocking the way out. And my second poem is entitled Talk and Talk and Talk. Whether in and ear and out, I'll talk and talk and talk. Whether in and ear and out or held without a doubt, I'll talk and talk and talk. Whether in and ear and out or held without a doubt, I sway here to and fro and talk and talk and talk. Whether in and ear and out or held without a doubt, I sway here to and fro to live among the flow and talk and talk and talk. Whether in and ear and out or held without a doubt, I sway here to and fro to live among the flow, where if you wish, I'll grant, we'll talk and talk and talk. Whether in and ear and out or held without a doubt, I sway here to and fro to live among the flow, where if you wish, I'll grant, I'll hear your every rant. Please talk and talk and talk. Stay with me, my friend, our souls we can amend. Beside me is a seat reserved for all I meet. If you lend just one ear, I promise you, my dear, I'll sing you every praise, your name in every phrase. I talk and talk and talk.
Hello, I'm Star. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, guys.
I'm continuing to write these little memoir bits, and this one is called Instructions. How to clean the fridge, for instance. Easy to do when I was a teenage mom. Open the fridge, take everything out and wipe it down. Bottle of ketchup, jar of Miracle Whip, partial gallon of milk, and a 6-pack of beer, always Coors or Budweiser. There was no such thing as specialty beer or craft beer in the 1970s in Logan, Utah. I didn't even know there was such a thing as dark beer. Then we heard about Michelob Dark. It was exciting news. My sister and I drove 50 miles to Ogden for lunch at El Matador, a famed Mexican restaurant. We ordered Michelob Dark. We were in our mid to late 20s. We felt so uptown, so hoity-toity. My husband drank beer on tap at Hans Lounge after work, played the nickel boards, bet his wages away. Reasons for not having much food in the fridge. My husband's daily splurge at Hans Lounge, and my compulsive cleaning habits. The empty fridge. Compulsive dieting. Oh, I cooked for my kids. I cooked for my husband when he wasn't cooking at the cafe after his shift at the meat packing plant, or when he came home after Hans Lounge and an extramarital fling. Oh yes, how to stay slender and desirable as a mother of 3. I knew how to write that instruction manual, but how to keep a husband desiring me instead of other women, that was a set of instructions I had no idea how to write. We reached our 30s in the 1980s, and I found a job managing housewares instead of waitressing. I took my wayward husband out to dinner on my exciting new salary. He acted proud that I bought myself a car from a neighbor, proud that he let me spend my paychecks on a bank loan, let me take him out on dates. I took him to Salt Lake City for an overnight stay, dinner and drinks in a fine restaurant, and as we got on the elevator, me in my red dress and high heels, he in his dress pants and Izod shirt, 2 businessmen raised their eyebrows when he blurted out to them, "I've never done this before." He was a small-town guy, even with his womanizer man about the bars sort of lifestyle. I could have written instructions for my ex on how to follow your wife into new experiences without being labeled a small-town hick. He might say I wrote instructions for myself on how to keep stringing a husband along after giving up on him. Now I'm writing instructions on how to remember the good times after I left the marriage, how I surprised him with something he'd never done before, something that made him feel young and fresh as forbidden love. And it feels like something I need to save, something I need to keep, the memory of his incredulous, grateful face, the naive sweetness in that moment amid the flaws, the memory of a time when I felt smart, worldly, in charge of my life.
Thank you. Our next 3 readers are Michael Halleck, Shannon Ballin, and Denise Gackstetter. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I'm going to pick up on part 2 from what I started last week, just to kind of give people an orientation on what I'm actually doing here, figuring it out as I'm going along. The last thing was that I read the last
meeting was poets and fence posts. So this is part 2. Looking back at what I presented last time, I'd like to look back a bit further and share a few details about fence posts and poet, wolf, and soul path, how far back they go, when it all started. I realized last time why I'm here, reading all these writings, why I'm writing background script, filling in the storyline, the construction. The outline of the book finally reveals itself. This collection of writings, which I call the Crash Pack, began in 1981 at age 19, soon after I left my parents' house along with the Catholic faith, forsaking all in order to become, quote, saved in a holiness Pentecostal church. I can still remember my dad saying, "Don't let the door hit you on the way out." That first Pentecostal experience lasted just short of 2 years. It was then my first poems began to emerge, many spontaneously, others took a bit of labor. The core of most of these poems, despite a sincere faith and devotion, was a fence-line theme of being a misfit, of one just not quite fitting in. From 1981 to 2011 was a 30-year misfit journey through Protestantism, Eastern Orthodox, and finally Chabad Judaism. This 30 combined with the prior 19 plus years equals 50. On my birthday, March 9th, 2012, same year as my Chiron return, if any of you are into astrology. So what happened in 2011? September 8th, 2011, quarter to midnight, I'm on my way home from a Hebrew study in Salt Lake when I enter some road construction on the off-ramp going to Brigham City, heading back to Logan. As I begin making the turn, I hear a woman's voice in my head that says, "You're in the wrong lane." I swerve in between the pylons just in time to stuff my Toyota Scion into a car-sized rectangular hole in the freeway. No time for brakes. 55 to 0 and bang! That's how quick it's over. Ever since then, all those Christian and Hebrew books have been in a box. The crash was a watershed moment, a literal death and rebirth, from which I emerged and have not been the same since. Very much like a complete system shut down and reboot. Hence the Crash Pack. Writings from 1981 to 2011 are listed under The God Project. Writings from 2012 to the present are listed under The Goddess Principle. This brings us to the wolf. In our last poet gathering, the last poem I read was called Lobo, written September 11th, 2006. The Reemergence of the Wolf, written almost exactly 5 years prior to my crash. Interesting. Wolf spirit has been with me my whole life. I was given a Hopi wolf conchina back in the 70s from my mom, who was into all that Indian stuff back then when she was alive. Wolves are sacred, point of fact. Guardians and guides of the sacred soul path. To have one show up in visions or meditations. To have days when you feel them all around you. Sometimes so strong that it makes your eyes leak. When the wolf showed up in 2006 through that poem, I realized then that it had never left me. That it was always there in the background, following me through the trees. I had just gotten too busy doing all my erasing stuff to see it, to see what was going on, what was coming for me. Right up to the day in 2013 when I was, quote, retired from my job with a pen and a handshake. So the first piece I have to read is called Wolf Comments. Now that we have a little background on the wolf. It was written February 2013, the very morning of the day of my last working at this retirement job. I was woken up early and given a rather prophetic paragraph. I thought it was for the woman I was doing an astrology reading for. I didn't realize later that grandmother had intended it for me. Grandmothers, yeah, that's a whole other topic. A whole other section of fence posts. You will get a glimpse and feeling of her in both of these writings that I have. The second one is actually a very vivid dream she gave me in August of 2013 while sleeping on the floor under a buffalo robe not long after moving to Four Corners, Colorado. It's called New Buffalo. Wolf comments, the heart is a dimensional gateway to other realms, other worlds, other possibilities, divine love. The soul's journey is a journey to not only find truth, but to find love. Unfortunately, what stands in the doorway of love is fear. Why? Why is fear in my way? To know the answer to this, you must know the component. You must know your adversary. Fear is the absence of knowing. To know your adversary, you must know yourself. This is the path of the soul. To know yourself means that at some point in the soul's existence, it has to stop seeking outside itself and go inward. Some call it the shamanic path, or life of the soul, to die to the outer world, the mind, and spiral down to the depths of one's heart, one's soul, which lies in the soil of Mother Earth, waiting to bud, waiting to bloom. It's in and on that journey when we begin to understand the interconnectedness, the unity, the oneness of ourselves with Mother Earth, with the Great Spirit, with the cosmos. It is here in the depths of Mother Earth that we obtain our knowing, for she is truly our mother, and who would know us better? Fear and death now become our allies, for through them we gain eternal life, divine love. And this next one is actually a dream that I woke up from, and I was like, whoa, I'm not going to forget that one. And this voice in my head's like, you need to write that down. So here it is. The setting of the dream was a circle of Native American elders and others, maybe 12 or so. Someone had just spoken their oration, and it was my turn to speak. Thoughts and silence of contemplation, interconnectedness, and address to a native gathering. Respect of silence between orators to allow vibration of their words to settle before beating a new drum. I'm handed a walking stick. I spent most of my life searching for truth in books of the white man until I was brought low to the earth and they were stripped from me. The truth my heart was seeking was found on my mother's bookshelf. Words of your fathers, written down over 150 years ago as they signed over their land. The very foundation of their words, their existence, their mother. How does one settle eternity? Interconnectedness, the very vibration of the word, resonates its meaning, its definition, its purpose. Unlike the voices of the white man, whose words are built upon a temporal architecture of the mind, the words of your fathers are like drinking from the river of life that flows over Mother Earth. Their words are her words. Interconnectedness. Let the vibration resonate in your being, like the ground once resonated during the passage of a great buffalo herd. The breath, the hoof, the rumble of the heartbeat as they all ran as one. A herd so large that it covered the plain. It was as if the earth itself was moving. Mother Earth is preparing, creating a new herd of buffalo, one that will run with her as she shakes the earth. May we all run as one breath, one heart, one mother. Thank you.
That was fabulous. The Writers Cafe and all the open mic readers. Can you hear me? So yesterday was my sister Marcy's birthday, and she died. And so I'm going to read poems about Marcy, 4 poems. And they're going to be in the order that I wrote them. So this first one I wrote relatively soon after she died, and it's called Dear Marcy. Dear Marcy, in the wetlands this morning, a flock of ibis glides ebony. I miss you. I always knew it would happen, but I wasn't prepared for it to be so soon. We were just texting last night with Al. It was the 10-year anniversary of Dylan's death. You had just had your shoulder replaced. You told us you had been diagnosed with primary progressive multiple sclerosis. I told you I saw a monarch butterfly and things would be okay. We were supposed to go to lunch the next day. I hope you aren't in pain anymore. I hope you died in your sleep because of a drop in your blood pressure. Al has seen 3 monarch butterflies since you died. A swallowtail thumped its lovely body against the window. I think it was you telling me you're okay. I went to bed, so I didn't see your last text. I have 2 yellow and black monarchs that come every day. I could watch them forever. And this is called Dream About Marcy. I swim in a blue-green lake. Black and gold birds on the shore pick with precise beaks. Black coots with white bills. They all fly away at once in a burst of feathers, black and gold streaks. Marcy swims towards me. She starts to sink. I can touch the bottom. I pull her to the surface and hold her. I know she is going to die in a few days. I hold her pale, freckled face close to mine. I see silver strands in her long, dark hair. I hold her close in the water, in the blue-green water. In the blue-green water, I cradle her, try to shield her from the aching. And this is called Cutting Onions. I slice into the white, fumes rise to sting my eyes, tears form. I think of my sister who likes to cut hers small. I pick up the phone to call her. I catch myself. She won't answer, not now, not ever. She has been dead for over a year. And this last one's called Apart. Apart. Minnows glide above gray dimpled silt. The minnows all have gray shadows. One shape is sharp, one soft. I can't tell which is the minnow and which is the shadow. In the shower glass, my deluded face. I lock eyes with myself. My eyes are my dead sister's eyes. Serious, steady. We used to be so similar. No one could tell us apart.
Hi, everyone. It's hard to go after Shannon. Beautiful poems. Thanks, Shannon. Thanks to everyone else for reading them. Thanks for letting me have time. I'm kind of working on revising a whole mess of poems, and so these are 3 poems that I have had some help with. Star helped me with some refining, and I think they're at a pretty good place, so we'll see. Okay. The first one's called Mutual Understanding. I pulled into our driveway, which runs parallel to my neighbor's drive with no space in between. Their gray minivan was parked as usual, tucked in against their side porch. I slowed my car, allowing it to gracefully glide through the narrow space. In the far right periphery, I saw her, shoulders hunched, forehead heavy against the steering wheel. I willed my car to be invisible, silent. She was almost to the stairs when I called her name. She looked up. My heart didn't need the story. It didn't need the facts. It understood that glance. I opened my arms. She opened hers. Nothing said. Two beings embracing on a November afternoon. Overhead, the sky expanded. Beneath our feet, the earth turned. Okay, and this one is called, I think I'll read this one. This one's called Sitting Together. Sitting together. Yesterday I cried in the produce section of the grocery store. I felt my threadbare heart rip as I held two of the most gorgeous oranges I have ever seen. Their radiance glowed in my hands, while across the planet, another one's hands are empty and dark. I struggled to restrain the sobs that pushed up that tear, ripping it wider, while across the planet, another one strains to mend the ragged fabric of their heart. Around me, neighbors shopped for the feast that would lay across their table, thankful for the abundance of their lives. While across the planet, others wander in search of any source of food that would sustain them through another desperate day. Gathering my basket, I walked out into the brilliant upside-down blue bowl of afternoon. Tears fell into my shoes, onto the pavement. In the car, I sat weeping, with grief so big it reached across the planet, to another who also sits and weeps. It was all I could do in these tender, aching moments, to sit together with grief and love. And this last one is called Trust. Trust. I watched a young man walk down the hallway outside my office. In his right hand, he held a long cane, its tip floating parallel to the floor. He walked close to the left wall, assuredly, not too slowly. When he came to the corner, his fingers opened and gently grazed the wall. He took the full 180-degree turn into the stairwell without hesitation. Then he was gone. I think of him now as I pause on the verge of the vast open space that is a room, that is a day, that is a life. I think of him now walking into each new dark moment, rife with possibility of obstacle or fall. What unseen light illuminates his way? How does he sustain each courageous step? Where does he find his faith in the world? I think of him now and wonder. I think of him now and take the next step. Thank you.
Thank you. All of our speakers are videotaped, so if you don't want to be videotaped, just let us know before you get up here. Our next three open mic speakers are Tim Keller, Katie Robinson, and Josh Keith. Thanks.
So, those of you who've known me for a while or know that I write a lot about my dad. This time of year, in particular, I end up thinking of him because it's the time of year he died back in 2014. When he was alive, we didn't get along very well at all. As I wrote in one of my stories, it always just seemed to me as though Dad was born a middle-aged conservative who took his seat on the High Council the moment he left the womb. The writing of various stories kind of helps me understand that he wasn't so dumb after all. The sailor didn't like the looks of the young man was clear. "Ooh, boy," he said, "would you look who's here? Talk about a bad penny turning up." The man, not much more than a boy really, had burrowed into the meager shade of the drinking fountain in front of my father's service station, folded his arms over a leather vest, and in spite of the scorching heat of a cloudless July day, he fell asleep. "Just look how he's dressed," Sailor continued. "Hair flapping all around like a girl's damn hippie probably squats to pee." My face reddened, but a look from Dad silenced even the hint of retort. Didn't they know who this was? They cheered him often enough in the stands. Richie Butters was the guy every boy wanted to be and every girl wanted to have. He had the skills, legendary on the basketball court. He had the car, a black Camaro Z28, complete with orange racing stripe, and he had the style, that awesome leather vest, and never even one hair out of place. But school had been a whole 6 weeks past now, a lifetime apparently. Sailor, for his part, was dressed into the nines in shabby coveralls and worn boots. Looking every bit the male part of American Gothic, the stifling of which observation again of the psychic behest of my father actually hurt. Kid came around sniffing my daughter. I'd fill his rear end so full of rock shells it'd shiver up like a couple of raisins. "What daughter?" I said, under my breath amidst the laughter. Not quietly enough, Dad's finger wrapped my skull. I hear old Van Harris ran him out of premium oil. I Gandhi said, "Wouldn't even let him fill up." "Wouldn't have him around here if I were you," Sailor asked, casting an eye toward me. The boy might pick up on some of his bad habits. That's me, by the way. The boy, or boy, if they're feeling personable. It wasn't that I minded the job at the station. It was better than bagging groceries or hauling hay. But I hated working days. That's when Dad's friends came to gossip. If I were lucky, they'd have one of their kids with them, and we'd slip away to a corner somewhere. Mostly, though, I was on display, the dutiful son, to be seen, and seen busy, I might add, but definitely not heard. Just once, I'd like to have corrected them. Nothing big, maybe just, "My name's Tim," or something equally revolutionary. It wouldn't do any good, though. I could hear Dad's "hush" even now. Sailor was retired and become a regular fixture around the station, leaving only for sustenance and then returning, sometimes for the day. One night, Dad and I were closing up before he finally left. "Why do you let him hang around all day?" I said as we drove home. "Have some respect. Sailor's a great man." I should have known that was coming. Everybody in town knew Sailor was a decorated naval hero, hence the moniker Sailor. The result of an old battle wound, as Sailor would say. Shrapnel came up and bit me in the ass, sealed his heroism. I didn't even know his real name. "I guess," I said, gratified Dad had deigned to speak on the matter. "But Dad, he's mean as hell." "He's not mean as all. He's just tough." "Oh, I know he grumbles a lot and he likes to tease, but that's how military men are. Well, all he does now is stand around all day and talk crap about people. He wouldn't let anybody else get away with that." Dad's voice turned grave. "He's hurting, son, and lonely, now that his wife is gone. Would you really deny him a place to go and be with his friends?" I shrugged stubbornly. "Wouldn't that make you the mean one?" I breathed, kind of a sigh, perfected in adolescence. "I guess," I said, and let it drop for the moment anyway. Still, I just couldn't see the attraction. I mean, women get a bad rap on the gossip front, but guys at the station were worse than any women I ever knew. Stereotypical copy clutch, if ever there was one, say who sends the copy. I'd heard rumors about Richie myself, that he'd gotten Susan pregnant. Everyone was shocked, not so much about the sex. The shock aside from the pregnancy was Susan. Sure, she was nice and pretty, but not exactly an A-lister. Susan's parents weren't happy about it, but Richie's mom and Clock Tower batshit crazy and threw him out. His dad, always kind of wimpy, just went along. The part nobody talked about was Richie foregoing college ball to get a job and an apartment for them to live in. Not juicy enough, I guess. Sleeping out there like a damn bum, Sailor growled. He grabbed one of the window washer buckets I just filled. "This'll wake him up." My hand locked around the handle so tight it spun Sailor around. Our eyes locked. I wanted wanted to call him a hypocrite, a gossiping old biddy, nasty, ugly, bitter, and too many other things to list in polite company. I was 15, that's my excuse. 15-year-olds didn't say things like that to friends of their fathers. Especially not to friends of my fathers, not if they wanted to see 16. Sailor turned red and jerked back on the bucket. It barely moved. And something, not quite fear, but something, flickered behind his eyes. He let the bucket go. Dad walked to the Coke machine. The rhythmic heel-toe of his work boots deafening in silence. He pulled a quarter from his pocket, dropped it in the slot, and punched the Fanta Orange, Sailor's favorite, handed in the can. Jim, would you go out and ask your friend to come in here a minute, Dad said. I'd like to have a talk with him. Yes, sir, I said. I walked outside on automatic pilot. That didn't go so badly, all things being equal. I shouldn't even be breathing. The situation did not bode well for Richie, though. He wore that infamous leather vest, now scuffed and scarred, a black Sabbath t-shirt beneath filthy jeans but no socks. His sneakers had holes on both big toes, and the sole was beginning to separate from the shoe. I opened my mouth to speak, but hesitated. True, school was out. Even so, high school hierarchy clearly forbade invisibles from initiating casual conversation with stars. It was during my hesitation that he broke forth. Hey, buddy, he said, I didn't know you worked here. Hey, I said, yeah, it's my dad's place. Cool. Doing construction myself. Work sucks, but the pay is good. Suspicion crept into his eyes. Hey, do I have to leave? I mean, I will. Of course, I will. But Susan has the car, doing summer semester down at the college. I said I'd meet her here. Could you maybe ask your dad if I can hang till she gets here? Sure. I mean, yeah, I will. But he kind of sent me out to get you. Just then, Susan pulled us in a beat-up Tinto. Dude, I blurted, what happened to your car? Sold it, he said. Babies are expensive. Then he grinned. Totally worth it, though. He greeted Susan with a kiss. Pull into the self-serve, he told her. I've been here a while. We better get some gas. Can you tell your dad I'd be right in? I nodded. Set it back inside and shot Sailor a glare as I jabbed the approve button for the self-service island. He was waiting for his wife to pick him up, I said. He'll be in a minute. A moment later, Richie walked in, not tentative, not defiant either, just radiating that cool confidence he was famous for, and handed Dad the $5 for the funeral. You wanted to see me, Mr. Benson? Dad took the money and walked out to the register. I did, he said, pointed to a plaque on the wall. Can you read that for me? It was just a silly old quote, picture of a horse on it, so trivial these days it would barely be good enough for a Facebook meme. Richie dutifully recited the message. If you treat your wife like a thoroughbred, she'll never turn into an old nag. He chuckled, equally dutifully it seemed to me. Dad walked back with a $100 bill in his hand. Don't use it for gas or bills or diapers or anything else I know you're going to need. I want you to take your beautiful bride out for a nice date, often as you can. Richie could only nod. Meanwhile, the rest of us developed a fascination with the floor. Now I understand you need a place to go to wait for your wife. Why not come in next time? Hell yes, Sailor added. We could use some new blood. Boy over there is just too damn serious. Sailor pointed to me. Boring as all get out.
Hello, my name is Kitty Robinson. I wish I would have known it was going to snow today. I'm, in fact, wearing shorts. The first poem is called Earth. Steps were rediscovered, nothing, salt and fire, if the ancients will, a common ancestor. The destruction of the earth is tragic but kind of fulfilling, a fatalistic thing. A duality fulfilling and tragic like death. Think in terms of energy. Fewer recognize what they found. It is about remembering. Timeless time, timelessness time, the veil of night, our souls grow in the light. Birth and earth, also the infinite fire, white phoenix. Then the next one is called Mars. Nets and murder from the stars, with gratitude for much candor. He is always in paradise when systems break down. It hits different, it is war, buys men off. And fast as you drop your eyes, we are still each other, but on different sides. It is the most important war, the current war. A woman recounts the sacrifice. Do some resets interminable. This one is called Easter. I am a Saturn who dreams of days after Easter, a sick lion, plot against others and fall, a number that permeates. Seeing the waves, feeling the ground, divines time, a definition derived from lots of adventures. I'll never be there, you are beyond me. God made me forget chronicling the deities, how humans cannot fathom. Look around, close your eyes, to wrap yourself in the warm, smooth skin. In the underworld, she was Venus. Angel or demon, a cursed prince. The world is a labyrinth. Nature is a mirror. God is my grace. Christ is my hope. A severe but glorious life. A great beauty, a place of force. The final one is called Prophecy. It's about Cassandra of Troy. Prophecy, a terrible thing to commandeer. Salt and fire, nothing. The destruction is kind of fulfilling a fatalistic duality, satisfying and tragic. Death, the present is always dissolving away out of no way. Graves are gates. Fewer recognize what they've found, the key of prophecy. A maxim inscribed, if you die before you die. Explore inward, no identity. You don't have to force it, you just have to be. God of the future linked to sun and prophecy. Liar and liar. Guilt, a burden. Traitor and translator. Invisible to things he stole. Added a curse to a blessing. Ghosts acquire voices. Awe, reverence, shame become such a part of it that you cannot see unrelated intentions meet, answers that cannot be. How humans cannot fathom apocalyptic and supernatural structure, the states of existence, chaos or exalted by accurate but unheeded visions, dreams, and lots. Her eyes flashed. She knew the future. Her state reflected the prophecies. It is the most important war, the current war. Times of transition, the echoes of emotion.
Excuse me. It's titled, Protect Me from My Protectors. I, Josh Keith, write this epistle to Judge P. I know you to be a good and honorable man, full of integrity. I am motioning for this case, 122CR00111, to be dropped. Due to unconstitutional acts, the government has exceeded its jurisdiction, April 9th, 2019, while I was heavily medicated on morphine, administered by my doctors, unable to leave. I was denied my right to have an attorney present during the FBI and ATF interrogation. David Taylor misquoted me in order to obtain a search warrant. After my request to have an attorney present was rejected, he decided to delete a section of the audio recording from the reported discovery. I was denied my right to a quick and speedy trial, even though my property was seized on or around April 11, 2019. It took 3.5 years for federal charges to be filed against me, without federal due process for the duration. I am being put in double jeopardy because the state of Utah has already dismissed and expunged this case by Judge Kevin Allen and then by Judge Angela Fonsbeck. I understand the Supreme Court has ruled that the federal courts are a separate entity. I pray you will continue to have the gift of discernment, and in this case, know the difference between the spirit of the law versus the letter of the law. Judge Angela Fonsbach has signed the expungement order Judge Angela Fonsbach has signed the order to expunge all related records. This was not upheld by the federal system. I am being repeatedly blackmailed and threatened by the government, told if I do not confess to at least one felony, it would be worse for me. In other words, if I do not sign a plea deal, as so many people have been forced to do, embarrassing information and more charges will be pressed against me. The moment we say things we do not believe is the instant that our words and our meaning lose their depth and dimension. Furthermore, I believe the charges themselves are unconstitutional in light of the Second Amendment of our Bill of Rights. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The charges I'm referring to are possession of an unregistered firearm with a silencer and destructive device. I believe these are infringements because if one does not, sorry, someone's trying to call me, it's making it really difficult. How embarrassing. Okay, now I have to scroll back down. Okay. I believe these are infringements because if one does not register it, an otherwise law-abiding citizen can be arrested for possessing it. Laws like these are disarming America in a critical point in time where tensions are high between Russia and Ukraine, also China and Taiwan. I believe there should be at least a gun behind every blade of grass, and now is the time to use all of our resources to defend our lives, our liberty, and our property. I believe these laws especially, and others like it, to be unconstitutional, immoral, cowardly, a stain on American heritage, and a disgrace to our honored dead who gave their lives for our freedom. My father, Jared Keith, passed away at 47 years old, fighting stage 4 stomach cancer, leaving behind his wife and 7 sons. Teaching me there is honor in fighting even if you lose. If he were still here, he would have written a better letter on my behalf. He would have stood up for me where my own court-appointed attorneys have not. My father is in the arms of the Lord. My mother took the burden upon herself to raise us. Regardless of your decision, our paths were meant to cross. Winston Churchill penned, "The destiny of man is not measured by material computations. When great forces are on the move, we learn we are spirits, not animals. There is something going on in time and space and beyond time and space, which, whether we like it or not, spells duty." Martin A. Timptu wrote, "America must win this war. Therefore I will work, I will save, I will sacrifice, I will endure, I will fight cheerfully and do my utmost as if the whole struggle depended on me alone. I will thank you in advance for your consideration. Respectfully, Josh Keith."
Thank you. Our last reader tonight is Rachel Ann Robertson. Thanks.
This is called The Freckled Table. The table and I have switched places today. I wore makeup and considered from limited options how to feel most aesthetic today, not mysteriously finding the style of skirt and blouse I wish I owned, but no I don't. I contentedly revert to my usual all black. The table, however, is bare of its usual makeup, not cleansed of clutter, and naked instead of draped in a stitched tablecloth of vivid red or emerald green. Every pen mark and paint stain is visible, like freckles and zits across its skin. The wood is an unpleasant sort of deep yellow that strains my eyes. It isn't ready for company. Yet I, usually unwilling to go to a morning activity, ventured out to one today. I felt uncertain as I stepped out, my breath slowing and my heart laboring, as in the moment I felt I was at the store again, remembering a recent trip there. One of those days where the sights and sounds and lurking dread of how much I might be overspending makes the walls close in on me, and every glance my way or response requested takes precious energy. I'd been in danger of being late for one daughter's bus arrival and trying to get the birthday cake for another in time for the party. The two daughters I had with me chattered happily, the younger oblivious to anything amiss, the oldest gently reminding me it would be all right as she catches me taking steadying breaths, a clue to her that I'm just trying to get through. Every comment or attempt at friendly conversation from the cashier felt like being handed another stone to carry with my arms already full, or perhaps the archaic form of torture in which a defendant who stood mute would have to endure an increasing weight of stones placed on their chest until they either spoke or died. Remembering I'm not at the store, but frozen with one foot just off the pavement, I try to search within myself for clues, like I'm deciphering a treasure map, trying to discern if I'm headed for the X that marks the spot in the company of others, or rough waters with cunningly illustrated eels ready to strike with anxiety and discomfort. I sat at another table there, unadorned apart from various craft supplies, much like the one I left at home. Thankfully, it was gold I found in the company and conversation. I lingered long, eventually slipping away. I've come to love this table at home. It's witness to many of my creative attempts, setbacks, and triumphs. It's stained with the evidence of curious, artistic girls experimenting with color. Occasionally, it's even seen a hot meal served. We're 12 years into marriage, and this table has been here for it all, traveling with us. My father-in-law built it when, as a young husband, he couldn't afford a dining set for the family. He'd taken up a class at the local high school to make this one. They passed it on to us, the only furniture apart from folding camping chairs and a mattress on the floor we owned when we started out. Now I've written myself sentimental enough to attempt to hug a table. I'll clean it up soon, dress to the nines, then wash off my makeup and change to loungewear.
Anyone else want to sign up? What a great night. Thanks, everyone. If you'd like to stay and help stack the chairs, that would be great. Our next Helicon West is March 27th. And is it the USU?
Bullpen Creative Writing Club.
Bullpen Creative Writing Club. So that should be great. Come back, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for reading tonight. This was great.
Thank you, Pam.